All right. First rule of this channel, we not talk about this channel. Second rule of this channel, this is not legal advice. So this is going to be the 2024 Bears fantasy overview going into training camp. Things I didn't talk about yesterday when I was talking about the 49ers would be the vacated opportunities or the theoretical vacated opportunities that would allow like a Ricky Pearsall to be fantasy relevant, or to allow Debo, Kittle, CMC, or Ayuk to take a step forward in the passing game. Now, from the perspective of the Bears, and this is why I bring it up, is the Bears are all going to be theoretical. So last year, we're kind of trying to see how much more blood we can get out of the 49ers. With the Bears, we're going like, hey, we got to speculate on what they're going to look like because of what they did in the offseason. So I got their draft pulled up here. This is my second take. If you're wondering, Caleb Williams, first overall, former USC Trojan, Heisman Trophy winner, football Jesus. He goes to the Bears. We can start speculating on that. Rome Odunze goes 9th overall to the Bears. Really surprising. He goes, wide receiver from Washington. Like he may be like not just special. He could theoretically be the best guy in this class, even better than Marvin Harrison. There's some guys out there that believe that. I just like to do fantasy football. So Kieran, whatever from Yale, I watched a little bit of tape on him. I'm a little intrigued because I do like the Ivy League guys. I'm probably going to be more of a guard. The upside to this from a fantasy perspective, and this is why I have this pulled up. From an offensive line perspective, what we're kind of looking at is that a team could build up, 5 guys, say we feel pretty good about them gelling together and put them out on the field. So if we start hearing grumblings about injuries or the fact they can't figure out that 5 guys to put on a field, that's when it starts to worry. We should probably be downgrading things. This is one of the things that we heard about with the Jets, and we should have just been jumping off the Jet ship. That's one of the things that was predictive about the Aaron Rodgers injury. We didn't know Aaron Rodgers would get hurt on the second play. What we could have known is that the offensive line was going to be bad. In this case, that's why teams are not actually listing guys as like guards and tackles and centers. They're just listing them as O-line because they're going to put them out there and go like, who are our top 5? And that's what we're going to roll with. So the 3rd round draft pick from Yale, I definitely think that he potentially could be more of a guard than a tackle. Guys at this point in the draft that are tackles tend to end up being guards, and maybe they'll develop into tackles later on throughout their career. The Bears didn't really go out and get anybody else on offense. So part of the reason why I'm doing the overview on this is to talk about, in general, what we can kind of guess we think is going to happen on the season. So scoring in general in the NFL is down because the league is stupid, and they're like, hey, fans like scoring, so let's change some things. And they didn't realize that defenses would react to that because, why would, cause and effect happen with, the NFL? So you see 2024, 24.8 points. That's a league high record for all leagues or all seasons. And then 2020 or 2023 all the way down to 28th all time at 21.8 points a game. Scoring is going to be down. And I also have 2013 pulled up from a fantasy perspective. That's when Peyton Manning went out there and torched everybody for 5,400 yards and 55 touchdowns. Drew Brees did 5,100 yards and 39 touchdowns, right? And you can see right here that like Manning had 1 rushing touchdown on negative 31 yards rushing, and Drew Brees had 3 rushing touchdowns on 52 yards. They're just lighting the league up through the air. So when we talk about like high volume passing offense, like we ain't getting it anymore. This is in 16 games, and Tua did 4,600 in 17. So just kind of, remember that when we talk about like theoretically how guys are going to get there. And we're going to have to talk about how like Caleb Williams is going to get there. It ain't going to be that type of high volume passing offense because they just ain't around in the league. And there's only going to be so many touchdowns that teams are going to end up scoring. And it looks like maybe top end is going to be about 60. So only so many touchdowns to go around when it goes from a team to team basis. So moving on, the Bears last year, the only thing to really know is that we don't really know what they're going to be like this year because Caleb came in, Justin Fields got shipped to the Steelers. They were rather low from an overall perspective of passing yardage. And the only guy that's really going to matter about, I'm just looking at it, I think they're 6th overall, the 6th worst passing offense. The only guy that's really going to matter about is when we get to DJ Moore. There's going to be the possibility of a lot of other guys to have fantasy relevant seasons with Keenan Allen being brought in via trade and Rome being drafted. So there are theoretically a lot of opportunities there, even though on paper, like they shouldn't be. Let's see. Moving on. So again, what we're looking at from a perspective of Caleb Williams, the number one overall pick, and I have this pulled up. So last year with Matthew Stafford, you see high volume passing offense. So he missed sometimes because of injury. He was at 16.2 points a game, 3,900 yards, 24 touchdowns. Again, it ain't going to be good enough to win you a league. Where's Tua? Right there. Tua, 4,600 yards, 29 touchdown passes, no rushing touchdowns. Neither did him or Matt Stafford. He did 15.9 points a game. So when we talk about high volume passing offense, like there needs to be about 1,000 more yards passing and 10 to 20 more passing touchdowns on a season from some of these guys to actually hit that mark. Otherwise, we're going to need that rushing yardage and those rushing touchdowns. Now, Caleb Williams can do that, and I have this pulled up. So in college at Oklahoma as a freshman, 442 yards rushing, 6 rushing touchdowns. His rushing touchdowns go up each year to 10 to 11, but his rushing yards go down 382, 142. So it's going to be a little difficult to go, hey, what are we going to get from Caleb Williams? And I have DJ Moore pulled up. That's not who I want. It's going to be a little difficult to go, well, how is Caleb Williams going to project to the NFL? And the other guy that I would be talking about with this, if I could go find the scoring again, is going to be CJ Stroud last year. And this is probably going to be about the stat line that I think that we could maybe be guessing at when it comes to Caleb Williams and through the air is 4,100 yards, 23 touchdowns. That was, with CJ Stroud missing, I think like 2 or 3 games on the season or parts of. The other guy that I would probably be betting is going to be a better stat line to compare Caleb Williams to is going to be Trevor Lawrence at 4,000 yards, 21 touchdowns, 14 interceptions, another 339 and 4 touchdowns. That's going to only get you to about like 16.4 points a game. So again, that still's not going to win you a league. What you're going to need to be getting out of Caleb Williams to win a league is going to be something along the lines of, Jordan Love is going to be about there, 4,100 yards passing, 32 touchdowns to go along with another 4 rushing touchdowns and 247 yards rushing. That's kind of what you're going to have to be hoping that you're going to be pulling the trigger on when it comes to Caleb Williams. Otherwise, he's just not going to be good enough. And at the prices that you would have to be spending on Caleb Williams, yeah, that return on investment would win you a league if he could do Jordan Love. If he can't do Jordan Love, you're probably not going to get that return to win the league at that point, because if he gets down to roughly, and again, your scoring settings and my scoring settings are different, but if he gets down to about the 17 points a game range, and again, I'm looking at like you, Jared Goff, 4,500 yards, 30 touchdowns, 2 rushing touchdowns, that ain't going to win you a league. Just to be advised, like that's the thin line between like I'm getting enough return on investment from the quarterback position to win a league, and I might as well be streaming and playing the waiver wire at that point. Is that razor thin? Because again, the guys that were doing it last year, 15 rushing touchdowns for Jalen Hurts and Josh Allen. I don't think we're going to get that from Caleb Williams, and if we do, it's going to have some ramifications on the pass catchers and DeAndre Swift and the other running backs. So let's move on from Caleb Williams. One last thing to talk about before I move on from that. Actually, now that I think about it and just ruin my clip. On Fantasy Pros, he's going about 102, quarterback 14. I think I have him at quarterback 13 overall because of that potential upside that's baked into him. So I do kind of like where he's going. Probably I would be looking at, if I'm really into Caleb Williams, probably having to maybe even go up a round earlier into 90, 92, 95 range to make sure that I get a guy like that. And I would either be taking a guy later as an insurance pick, or I would be trying to stack Caleb Williams with somebody else and go like, hey, I'm getting a guy that's probably going to give me top 12 upside, but maybe I can get top 6 upside out of Caleb Williams. I don't see there's a way that he's going to get into those top tier of the scoring. This Josh Allen tier to Dak Prescott, it's going to be very difficult. Maybe he could get down into Dak Prescott. He's not going to probably get up here into Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts land. Again, knowing what you're trying to draft is probably like, a mid-range QB1, maybe not even that sub-elite tier. Just outside of that, like quarterback 6 is probably going to be the top end of his range of outcomes. Because like I said, we already know that like scoring is going to be down overall across the league, and passing yards is going to be down because of the amount of cover 2 shells that are being played. You're just not going to get those big explosive quote-unquote plays that are going on in the NFL. All right. Moving on from Caleb Williams, we can talk about the running backs. So they went out and they signed DeAndre Swift to an $8 million a year deal. He is going to be flawed as a football player. Probably doesn't have the greatest vision in the world, likes to bounce things, has had some issues staying healthy throughout his career, was able to relatively stay healthy with the Eagles last year after, kind of missing a little bit of time with Detroit. They disliked him enough that they shipped him to Philadelphia. Just understand that when it comes to what they were asking him to do and what he was doing on the football field. So again, I'm probably going to be guessing that his over underline with Roshad and Khalil Herbert there is going to be about 1,000-yard rushing. Probably I'd up the touchdowns to about 6, and a very similar like 39 receptions, 200 receiving yards, probably like two touchdowns. I'm expecting this to be a little higher volume passing. So maybe the over underline, because he is a good receiving back, to be about 2 touchdowns instead of just 1. But, and this is where we're going to get into it. So Khalil Herbert, he's got to get shipped. And you see this like right there. Like I've been saying this all offseason. I can't see a way that they go into the offseason or into the season with Khalil Herbert on the roster, because now with this running back by committee, I would drop the over underlines on DeAndre Swift probably like 700 or 800 yards and move Khalil Herbert up. I would, at that point, I would probably guess that between Khalil Herbert, DeAndre Swift, and Roschon Johnson, you're looking at like, one third. Like DeAndre Swift would probably be the second down back. Khalil Herbert would be the first down back, and Roschon would be the third down back. That's how I would see it shaking out. I would want nothing to do with this backfield. So to take a look at DeAndre Swift at this point, if I could go pull him up on our Fantasy Pros, he is going at 68 overall. I wrote it down ahead of time, so I'm actually prepared. He's going 68 overall, running back 22. So the overall capital at 68, not horrible. You'd be looking at him to be like a low end RB2 flex type of range. I would be wanting DeAndre Swift if I'm going to pull the trigger on him as a replacement level back. I don't like to draft guys only as replacement level guys, especially at this range. These are low end premium picks. 68 overall is probably going to be a flex or to fill in like quarterback or tight end, something like that. Remember, in a draft, I should be drafting a roster and not a lineup, but most people like to draft lineups. So at this point, you're drafting a pick that should go into your starting lineup. I would like either Kyler Murray or Zamir White at this range. Even a Calvin Ridley probably has a little bit more upside. Definitely Dalton Kincaid at this pick. So, I think this is way overvalued if he's going at 68. I'd probably be a little bit more interested in DeAndre Swift if he's going closer to like 98 overall. I have him. Let me pull him up on my rankings. He is going somewhere in the range of running back 28 for me right now. And I haven't even broken up a lot of these backfields into individual rankings. This is just basically the entirety of the Bears backfield is running back 28. So, this is basically, I wouldn't be touching him. He's not draftable unless Khalil Herbert gets moved overall. The other thing to look at when I talk about this stuff is if Khalil Herbert gets moved, you're looking at Roschon is probably going to end up being the third down back. That's one of the things that he was known for coming out of college last year, was he may have been the best pass blocker in the class. So when we talk about like our buddy Amir Abdullah with the Raiders, if you can play special teams and you can pass block, you're going to play in the league for like 10, 11 years. Roschon can play special teams and he can pass block. So, the overall upside of DeAndre Swift when it comes to the two things that we need are probably going to be goal line work. If I can find DeAndre Swift, goal line work. Some of that we're expecting to go to Caleb Williams, the rookie, the quarterback. And the other thing is going to be receiving work. Well, if he's not going to be on the field on third down because he's not as good a pass blocker as Roschon Johnson, you're buying a really flawed guy. So outside of him really tumbling in a draft to, like I said, like pick, about to pick 100, I'm not going to be interested in DeAndre Swift as a running back too. Can't win me a league. Needs multiple guys to get injured or shipped to move into quarterback one land. And that's with a theoretical rushing upside quarterback that we, in order to return on investment, has to get some of those rushing touchdowns. Like I don't want this backfield. All right. So we'll move on to wide receivers. First guy to talk about DJ Moore. So it's going to turn out that the draft haul that the Bears got from the Panthers is going to be like one to talk about in the history books. One of the things they got was DJ Moore to help a young quarterback Caleb Williams. So DJ Moore may not be an elite wide receiver, but he's pretty close to being like very good. So the reason why I brought up the Bears total last year when they finished like with the 6th lowest passing totals is if we can get the Bears up to, theoretically like top 5, you're looking at like the Minnesota Vikings 250 yards a game. We can get a little bit more blood out of other people's stones, and which means that like this 136 targets, 96 receptions, 1,300 yards, and 8 touchdowns may be able to carry over from last year to this year. Now, the more that I'm looking at all this stuff, I have DJ Moore. I think I was looking at him before I went and recorded. He is my wide receiver. Give me a second. He's still wide receiver 17, and I really want to move him down. I just don't know how I move anybody up. Maybe Scary Terry, once we figure out like Jane Daniels is going to be the starting quarterback there for certain. I might move Scary Terry up into the top 20s, which would move DJ Moore probably closer to where I think he should go, which is around about wide receiver 25 in that tier group, 21 to 25. I think that's where he should go. It's going to be hard to get more than this 1,300 yards when we look to what we could theorize being the output for the Bears. So that range of outcomes for him to finish as wide receiver 1 are going to be like diminished. And again, to return on this season, I think it's there, but I would probably be betting that like his stat line is going to be close to like 1,200 yards on the season. So the guy that I would compare DJ Moore to this last year to what we're expecting this year is going to be in line with Nico Collins. This hyper efficient 109 targets, 80 receptions, 1,200 or basically 1,300 yards receiving and 8 touchdowns. So again, maybe we can get the overall production to stay the same, but the opportunities are going to go down. That could theoretically happen. That would keep him in the ability to have like that wide receiver 1 range of outcomes. I would like that at the in the wide receiver 20 range. If I'm going to go out, and I have this pulled up so I can talk about this. So DJ Moore is going 30 overall right now. So this is going to be wide receiver 17. So a little too steep on the overall value, but as a wide receiver 2, this is in line with where I have him ranked right now. So I would be okay pulling the trigger on this, and it would just be shopping versus the other guys in this area. I would probably maybe like the upside of Drake London if he would fall to me in this range. Otherwise, like maybe I'm looking at drafting a quarterback here. I do like my Rachaad White shares. I talked about already going up and getting him. So this would be where I would probably be going up and getting a Rachaad White instead of DJ Moore. If he fell another 10 picks and like value shopping, I got him in like the around pick 40. I would really like that because of the potential to return on investment overall. I don't necessarily see DJ Moore dropping because I do think everybody is very excited about Caleb Williams. And, I think he's going to go roundabout like wide receiver 17, 30 overall when Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, and Rome should all compress to be closer to wide receiver 20 to 30 because of their potential range of outcomes. So to move on to the next guy in this boat. So they went out and they traded for Keenan Allen. I don't necessarily, he's going to be 32 this year. I don't necessarily think that he's going to be able to have this 150 targets, 108 receptions, 1,200 yards and 7 touchdowns that he had last year with the Chargers. I don't think that's going to happen. I definitely think he's going to be closer to like 100 targets, probably like 80 receptions. They're not probably going to be the most efficient. I would probably put his like over under at about like 850 at this point. The security blanket. We don't really know how the touchdowns are going to distribute among anybody on the Bears. Again, assuming that Caleb Williams is able to call his own number in the red zone. The passing touchdowns to kind of guess are going to be difficult. Like, is Cole Kmet going to be the red zone guy? Keenan Allen has been the red zone guy with the Chargers. I can see that going forward. Rome's a big red zone target. The one guy I would maybe look at being in the odd man out is DJ Moore when it comes to like higher theoretical outcomes from the touchdown department. So like Keenan Allen, it may be safe to say like 6 is the over underline. So about like 900 yards receiving, 6 touchdowns on like 80 receptions. I think that would be fair. You're looking probably at the guy that I would maybe be looking at is maybe like a Jordan Addison type of season. If I could go hunt down Jordan Addison, is the mic's in my way again? Because with maybe the slight downgrade to the there's Jordan Addison, so 70 receptions, like 900 yards, maybe under on the 10 touchdowns. But again, I think that would be maybe if that's who Caleb Williams decides is going to be his red zone guy, is going to be Keenan Allen. The top end range of outcomes for Keenan Allen, maybe like double digit touchdowns. So I would like this overall. Keenan Allen is going 55 overall on Fantasy Pros. I have this pulled up ahead of time. A little bit of effort. Wide receiver 28. Again, I don't like I like the value overall at Keenan Allen to be like a low end wide receiver 2, like a flex guy. Again, the problem is just going to be like he ain't going to win me a league, and there's probably going to be other guys like a Mark Andrews at the same rate, that are probably going to have a better chance to win me a league. There's Scary Terry that I might be a little bit more interested with that upside play than Keenan Allen, Anthony Richardson, if that's the guy who falls to me in that range to have that elite type season from a quarterback perspective. All right, moving on. The last guy everybody I know wants to talk about, like the rookie Rome Odunze. I think he's special. I can imagine that he's going to line up as that X, and you're going to have a low volume of opportunities on the season. They have to be a little more high efficiency. I could definitely see Keenan Allen being primarily a slot guy in this offense, and then DJ Moore being the Z that they move around and manufacture opportunities for on a little higher rate. That's how I would see them playing out. So maybe a little bit more upside on the second half of the season when Rome and everybody, like, he's as good as he may be, he's not going to be the savvy veteran that the Keenan Allen is, or even the DJ Moore. There's going to be tricks that he's going to have to learn, and it's probably going to be better just to put him in that X and let him grow a little bit. So by the second half of the season, yeah, maybe he could end up being like the Justin Jefferson to the Adam Thielen that we saw a few years back. I could definitely see that happening. He is going right now at pick 87 on Fantasy Pros. I do think that this is probably in line with where he should be going. He's down there like running or wide receiver 41. I think that's about where I have him. Let me look this up real quick. He is my wide receiver 46. So basically in line with that, I have Keenan Allen at wide receiver 24 overall. And again, I'm trying to find ways to push all these guys, or DJ Moore and Keenan Allen, slightly down and Rome slightly up, because I do think that there's a little bit more ability for Rome to win a league at the end of the season, as he grows in the offense a little bit more. So from a theoretical range of outcomes, I would probably be guessing about 60 receptions, 900 yards, maybe 800 yards for Rome, and like 6 or 7 touchdowns. That would be like about my over underline. I'm trying to pull up theoretically the scoring that I would be looking at for him. Probably this Jacoby Myers would be very close to that. 71 receptions, 800 yards, 8 touchdowns. Very different players, but again, from a stat line perspective. And at that point, you're probably looking at like low end wide receiver 2, like high end flex type of wide receiver 3 range of outcomes for Rome. I think that would be an okay stat line. And from a value standpoint, if he's going at pick 87 overall, like, I wouldn't go up and overspend on Rome, because I think there's not probably going to be a cap on his high end range of outcomes with so many mouths to feed in this offense. We saw me talk about Cole Kmet overall. Would like it if he falls a little bit more to me. I don't know. One of the things that I have seen from the meta is people just go out there and they spend on the rookies, and that's not a bad strategy to have. They don't really care about what the road is for them to win a league. They're just going to go spend on a rookie. And we saw this with Justin Jefferson. I saw this in a lot of leagues where he was either not going drafted, or he was being released early on in the year. And people are just getting really savvy about this. They'll go out, they'll spend like, pick 77 on Rome, and they'll sit him on the bottom of his roster, and they'll write it out. So again, I don't think there's a way to win a league with Rome. If you do and you want to go up and get him, I understand. I would just say that, like, you're probably going to be holding on to a guy to see how the opportunity to shake out the targets with this overall backfield. And the other thing with Caleb Williams, I did want to talk about, to go back here to our stats on the year. When we look at the overall, like the low end range of outcomes for Caleb Williams, we shouldn't just be looking at the high end theoretical outcome for Caleb Williams. Last year, how bad Bryce Young was in the passing game, if I can get it to pull up. Bryce Young didn't even break 3,200 yards passing. I think it was at 2,800 yards passing. Did miss a couple games, 11 touchdown passes, 10 interceptions. Is Caleb Williams going to be that bad? Well, you kind of have to expect that there's a range of outcomes where Caleb Williams has this stat line on the year. And again, Bryce Young showed a little bit more nimbly bimbly that he did in college with 253 yards, but the offense was so bad that he only had 0 rushing touchdowns. So again, that low end range of outcomes, Caleb Williams is not going to be theoretical like, football Jesus. Like that should be built into him. And that means we also kind of have to build that into all the ADPs of all the players. If you want to go out and you want to overspend on the Bears wide receivers because you think that they're going to have the high end of the range of outcomes, I understand on that, but you kind of have to be understanding that there's probably a better chance that you're going to get like Bryce Young overall. The other thing, and I would bring up a little bit of Russ here overall, I could definitely see that you're going to get a little bit more of this rushing upside from Caleb Williams. So even if he gets a slightly lower passing totals, like Russ did last year with 3,000 yards passing, 26 touchdowns, even if the offense is a little bit more conservative than we expect, you're still going to have a low end quarterback one, and it is going to be able to support some of the toys on the offense. So the guy that I think is most likely to take a hit overall and the value is going to be Cole Kmet. So he's coming off that season last year, last 2 years finishing at tight end 7, 73 receptions, 719 yards, 6 touchdowns. Him and Justin Fields really did kind of have a connection, especially in the red zone. The coaching staff in 2022 did seem to like Cole Kmet. I think that he's flawed again as a third or fourth option in offense. He's probably fine enough as a Y inline blocker, but I could definitely see that this is probably going to be his over underline, and I'm not going to be expecting that he's going to be able to do much more than this with all the other options in the offense. So again, I have pulled up that Cole Kmet's going like 125 overall, tight end 15 on Fantasy Pros, where I have him. I think I have him much lower than that. I'm going to pull him up real quick. I have Cole Kmet in the range of tight end 17, 18, tight end 18 overall. So pretty much in line, maybe a little bit lower than Fantasy Pros. I don't think he's draftable outside of maybe like a desperation insurance policy because you went after like a Noah Fant, a Brock Bowers, or Ben Sinote, the rookie that the Redskins brought in. I just don't think there's going to be enough upside. If there's a guy it's gonna get shafted with all the new toys that are brought in with the rookie quarterback, I definitely think it's going to be Cole Kmet. He's going to have to keep those receiving touchdowns higher. Remember, Laporta did 10 last year. He's going to have to be able to get like 6 or 7 just to be on the low end range of tight end 1 if we're expecting to get what everybody else is going to be getting this year when it comes to like Kelsey, Mark Andrews being back, those type of things going on this year. So very low expectations for Cole Kmet to be a league winner. Probably best value to be a streamer in that 1 week where your tight end has a bye. And the only other guy to really talk about is Gerald Everett did come in with a 1-year deal with the Bears, 2-year, $12 million contract. So we talked about Brock Wright, the blocking tight end that the Lions matched the offer sheet for the 49ers. Talk about like Colby Parkinson doing about like $7 million a year. So this is another thing that shows me that the Bears are really trying to not ruin their toy in Caleb Williams. And this would be another guy that I would kind of expect to eat into Cole Kmet overall. So the one guy, like the one guy I think is going to really get eaten into is Cole Kmet between DeAndre Swift, Caleb Williams, a little bit of ability to score rushing touchdowns. Then you're looking at DJ Moore, probably going to still be the volume-based guy. Keenan Allen's going to be the security blanket. Rome is going to probably be the big upside guy. I just don't know how Cole Kmet is going to overwhelmingly be able to return on all this stuff. And to finish talking about the Bears, I do have a note up here about if what's his face DeAndre Swift, if Khalil Herbert gets moved, then Roschon would be a priority cuff to me. So like if that happens, I probably would be a little bit more interested in Roschon as a dart throw at the end of my draft, especially with DeAndre Swift's history of getting injured. And then to finish this all off so we can all go to bed tonight, to finish this off, I do like Caleb Williams' value at about a pick 102 on Fantasy Pros going at quarterback. I have him at quarterback 12. They say quarterback 14. I do like that pick, that value overall. Theoretical upside to be like a sub-elite quarterback. I do like Rome in the vicinity of this 87 overall, wide receiver 41. having a little bit more upside, probably in the range of like a boom bust wide receiver 3. I do like that overall. I don't like DeAndre Swift in almost any situation unless Khalil Herbert gets moved. Then we can start talking about DeAndre Swift a little bit more. He's going 68 overall, running back 22. I just not going to win me a league. May have a little bit more of the ability to win a league if Herbert gets moved, but then again, you're still looking at Roschon being the receiving back, the third down back. Keenan Allen, 55 overall, wide receiver 28. Probably just going to be a very safe pick about that range. I think that's about where he's valued to go. DJ Moore, I don't like it. Wide receiver 17. I like wide receiver 17 a little bit better than I like 30 overall on Fantasy Pros, and then Cole Kmet just generally going to be off my board. So anyway, that's about all I got for today. I'm going to be back tomorrow with the Bengals.